Hello and welcome to the video. I'm Paul Fisher, the editor of SC. The video features some of the highlights from the SC's Data on the Move conference.
So if somebody's information does go missing and they are indeed the victim of identity theft, they can sue you as the controller and you are expected to make them whole for the damage that the financial damages they have suffered. On top of that, once they've opened the gateway to financial remedy via proving financial loss, the damages, they may on top of that also claim money for distress. So if the information also involved an element of their personal lives, you could be facing some cash settlements for the distress caused. There are unlimited fines that the Information Commissioner may petition a court to levy against you as a data controller. So far, the fines have been pretty small, and nobody can work out really why the fines have been so small, given that the power to levy them is unlimited in the High Court.
Information security is inherently the exercise of a defensive mindset with a healthy sense of paranoia. Traditionally, the solution has been to defend the perimeter from the bad guys with products like firewalls, IDS, IPS, given a level of protection against attacks into the internal network. However, over the last 10 years, the landscape has become more complicated. The use of laptop devices by employees has increased to almost 60% in some companies. Then there's the added complication of other mobile devices such as smartphones or even the employees' own iPhones. These devices can easily be connected to the corporate email system. Mobile users simply step over the traditional security perimeter, and once outside, IT security and operations generally have very limited or no visibility of the configuration of these devices. For example, patch status, anti-malware status is the sensitive data on the device, and more importantly, is that sensitive data leaking from the device. All this information is pretty much invisible until the device is back inside the corporate network, when the device may have already been compromised.
We have probably about a fifth of the corporate workforce are classed as mobile workers, so we have a large tied sales force, financial advisors that effectively have to use laptops in the way they conduct business, and we have a high degree of flexibility with head office users in terms of laptops use. But in terms of the end device, we put a lot of security into that. The devices are encrypted, they're locked down, you can't change the configuration. We've got antivirus, anti-malware software running on. We've got a local firewall that's in operation, and the connection into the central network is about as secure as you can make it. So a VPN, virtual private network connection. So you are actually in a situation where I think for the mobile workforce that the risk of losing data or someone misusing data, I think these days is actually quite small. The biggest risk actually is the PR surrounding a loss of a laptop or a loss of a peripheral device.
I think the whole area of data protection is obviously very wide, very broad. Where I would start is with governance, policy, organizational setup, assigning ownership at the right levels, and that's typically with the business. And then IT is an enabler and supporting, and then is where it comes a number of controls. But I would start top of the house with good policy, good governance, good organization.
I've put this picture in as a kind of a thought-provoking one. This is we have a third party that carries out work for us in India. So this is the Chennai office. In India, we have a zero tolerance when it comes to security. So if you could read that sign, it actually basically bans any form of peripheral devices. You can't take those devices into the actual working area. There's no printers in the area. You can't do cut and paste. We've removed that functionality. And actually, when you get to this point, you've already gone through 3 levels of security as you go through reception and then you go onto the actual floor itself. The really scary thing about this office is if you go into the building, you turn left and you see the co-op door. If you go right, there's a big door saying FSA. So that really keeps us on our toes.
And on the subject of staff, obviously productivity is vitally important, but where does trust in your staff stop and secure solutions to ensure that they stay safe begin?
That's a very good question. Someone said that trust is good, but control is better. So clearly trust is good and necessary. We also need to have good controls. That comes from a range of aspects, from, let's say, the vetting standards, making sure that we know who works for us, to providing them with the right training and awareness so that there is no error, and instead they know very well what their obligations are.
Certainly, we've heard today that a number of people are espousing that you should trust your employees more and give them almost a smorgasbord of solutions to choose from, and you should be comfortable that they're selecting the right one at any given time. In an organisation of the size of mine, 65,000 employees, scattered across more than 100 jurisdictions, that would be a brave decision to take. So we might take or advocate a slightly more centralised approach, whereby the training that is given is recorded centrally and can be proven should it need to be subsequent to an event happening.
Obviously, you can do whatever you can to, protect your data, but ultimately, with human beings, we're clumsy, we lose stuff. So our response to that is to make sure that whenever anyone does lose a peripheral device and there's an incident, there's an absolute dedicated hotline number that an individual is supposed to call. And in fact, if they take too long to report an incident, that is a breach in itself. The person who takes the call will understand exactly what to do to actually establish the size of the risk, what needs to be done to mitigate the risk, to recover the device, and actually will understand what to do in terms of internal and external communications.